Okay, a bit of a disclaimer to set the scene for this video. Now, Razer sent me this Razer Blade Studio Edition laptop. I'm required to talk about it in a video, but no money was exchanged for this video. They don't get to see it before it goes live. There's no approval process, nothing like that. I don't have to give the laptop back, however, so take that as you will, but I would never recommend a product that I wouldn't personally use anyway. So I'll try and keep my opinions honest as possible. So with that all said, hey, I'm Pat K. I'm a travel photographer based in Sydney, Australia, and I've been using this laptop for a couple of months or so, and I have some thoughts on it, and I'd love to share this with you in this video. Now, for me, when it comes to Windows-based laptops, I have a lot of boxes to tick, and to be honest, not a lot of laptops tick those boxes. I've had a lot of experience with the Microsoft Surface laptops and devices, and they come close, but they're never quite as powerful as I need them to be for my photography workflow and, as a full-time content creator. This is a beast. So let's talk specs. The Razer Blade Studio comes in just one configuration in a mercury white finish. It's powered by a 10th generation 8-core i7 processor. It has an NVIDIA Quadro RTX 5000 graphics card, and it also comes with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. Now the RAM and SSD are swappable, so I've upgraded my personal unit to 64 gigs of RAM and 4 terabytes of NVMe SSD storage so that I can keep all of my working photos and videos on the machine all at the same time. Now, as you can probably tell from these specs, this laptop is a beast, and it enables me to get all of my workflows done in as fast a speed as possible, but we'll talk a little bit more about my workflow in just a little bit. What I wanted to start this video with is the design. How a device looks and how it feels are really, really important things to me, especially when it comes to laptops, right? Like, I have to feel good about carrying it, and I have to feel good about using it. And my history of Windows laptops, I've found most of them to look kind of ugly. A lot of them feel too gamery or too corporate, or some of them are downright crazy and garish, right? Some of them feel plasticky and cheap to use. And so when a company like Razer comes along, a company known for its gaming peripherals, right? You'd expect them to fall in line with the rest of the Windows gaming crowd. Except it doesn't. It really doesn't. What Razer have done here with the Razer Blade Studio Edition is, in my opinion, the most beautiful Windows laptop on the market right now, full stop. It's so beautiful. From the hard squared off lines, the generously sized trackpad, the all aluminum chassis. It's very reminiscent of the MacBook Pro, and to me, that's a really, really good thing. The Razer Blade Studio Edition screams refinement and polish, and it feels that way when you're using it as well. The keys are fantastic to type on, with just the right amount of travel and actuation force that I like to type with personally. And of course, in true Razer fashion, they're RGB lit and fully customizable in the Razer Synapse app. Let's talk about the display for a second, because this display is fantastic. It's a 4K OLED touch display that's amazingly color accurate, covering 100% of the P3 color gamut. And honestly, it is the best looking display I've ever seen on a laptop, period. It's way better than any MacBook display. It's way better than even the $1,000 external display that I've got back there. It is so nice. It's factory calibrated right out the box. And quite honestly, for me and my photography workflow, it fits in so good that right now I'm kind of spoiled. And I kind of want to upgrade the rest of my studio to this quality of screen, because it's just that good. Okay, so speaking of photography work, let's talk I/O, because this laptop has something that I've been missing for so many years, and that is an SD card slot reader. Now, this isn't just your ordinary SD card slot reader, it's a UHS 3 card slot reader. And UHS 3 cards aren't even out yet, so if you're worried about future-proofing, this reader has you covered. Now, next to the SD card reader, we've got a Thunderbolt 3, a USB-A, and a HDMI port. And on the left, we've got a headphone jack, a USB-C, 2 USB Type-A ports, and a proprietary power port. It's fair to say that this laptop has a bunch of features that creatives could want. And certainly for me and my workflow, the combination of its insane power, this gorgeous display, and all the I/O that I could possibly need for getting things done, it's working out for me pretty well. And so let me tell you a little bit about what I use the Razer Blade Studio Edition for and how well it handles the things that I need to throw at it from a photography perspective. In Lightroom, importing and exporting is just as fast as you'd expect the top generation, top spec stuff from Intel to perform. That is to say, it's fast, it's very fast. But where I find power most valuable, especially when it comes to Lightroom, is number one, in browsing the catalog and navigating through the UI, and number two, local adjustments while editing. So I use Lightroom to organize all of my images. And so I'm constantly moving and marking and rating and shifting my images around. I'm creating virtual copies and folders and collections, and I'm constantly moving things around all the time. I'm switching from like Lupe view to grid view to develop module. And on most devices, especially with the heavy A7R Mark IV 61 megapixel workflow that I've got, on most devices, these interactions, they lag. There's like half a second here, half a second there. These delays, they add up. And with the Razer Blade Studio Edition laptop, it just doesn't lag. It's instant. It's actually really surprising how fast it is. And this might sound like a small thing, but to me it's a huge deal because I spend 40% of my time in Lightroom organizing my files, right? Not even editing, just simply organizing where they're going to go. And so, you know, saving a couple of seconds here and there on every single project over the course of like, you know, an entire project, and then over the course of an entire hour's worth of session, an entire week, an entire year, it's a big deal. And so any time that I can save when it comes to productivity and navigating through the UI, I will 100% take. So when it comes to editing in Lightroom, this laptop handles everything that I can throw at it really. But where I was most impressed with it was in the more taxing processor-based tasks that most computers would, you know, start to struggle with. Things like using too much dehaze, or using the auto mask feature for local adjustments, or, you know, stacking local adjustments on too much. I'm constantly hitting this threshold because every single image that I make can have between 6 to 20 different local adjustments because I'm constantly tweaking and shaping the light the way that I want it to. But I was really impressed with this laptop because I didn't really ever hit those bottlenecks, and I didn't really ever hit any slowdowns, and that was huge. That alone for me is worth the price of admission here because it allows me to keep flowing on with my creativity. It allows me not to be restrictive with the things that I'm doing in terms of the edit. It allows me not to wait till Lightroom renders out these changes, right? So for me, this is a huge deal. Now, jumping over to Photoshop. My Photoshop workflow is actually quite light. If I ever do use Photoshop, which might be like 5, maybe 10% of the time, if that, I'm often just using it for things like object removal or mildly cleaning things up, and then I'm passing that PSD back into Lightroom for color grading. And for this use case, I've not found any slowdowns whatsoever. Now, I know I'm not pushing the machine in this respect, but it's nice to know that my big 61 megapixel A7R Mark IV workflow from Lightroom to Photoshop works seamlessly, and that is what is important to me. So, as you can probably tell, I really enjoy this device. It really fits my photography workflow very well, but of course, it's not perfect, right? There's a couple of things that bother me. And the first one is that you have to plug it into a power outlet in order to get the full performance power of the machine. And then once you do so, the fans are kind of loud. So if you're doing anything that's like sound sensitive, like video work, for example, you have to keep that into consideration as well. Now, the last thing is that in 2021, Ryzen chips are becoming the fastest things out there in the market right now. And so I would love to see Razer adopt these AMD chips in the future. But, you know, overall, these gripes are really small and there's a lot to love here. And Razer got a lot of things right. And this has become my favorite Windows laptop ever. Now, would I recommend it? Absolutely, but only if you had the money. This particular model of laptop is the flagship version of the Blade series, and with flagship models come flagship prices, right? It's $4,300 US or $7,700 Australian, which sounds like a lot, but to be honest, for this like package of performance, looks, that screen, oh, that screen, you probably won't find anything else that touches this kind of caliber. But if you are looking for, something in the Blade range as well, or just looking in the Blade range in general, the Razer Blade Advanced, which is the model down from this one, is $1,000 less respectively in those countries. And it is really good. And it'll get you, 80 to 90% of the same specs for $1,000 less. It just doesn't come in the mercury white finish that the Studio Edition one comes in. Okay, that's it for this video. These are my thoughts on the Razer Blade Studio Edition laptop. Check the link in the description below if you want some more information on it. But for now, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I make new videos on photography, travel, and tech every single week, so subscribe if you want to see some more. But for now, be well, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.